There's a specific kind of feminine spirituality that I've encountered a few times in my life and that have put me in some pretty dangerous places. And I've been trying to think back on, because I'm like, am I being unfair here by calling it a white feminine spirituality? Is this done by other women? And I'm absolutely sure that it is, but I might not be plugged into those cultures. All I can compare it to is Black feminine spirituality and the white women who have led me in my spiritual journey. And some have been those I've, worked with, or one is someone who I received my certification, my coaching certification from. Another is an author and a podcaster, and we'll talk about one of her recent podcast episodes that made me go whoa. And then there are just the white women in the church that I, grew up being around, that were well-meaning and very supportive and helped a ton, as an at-risk youth who was going through quite a lot. They offered a space where I could let those problems be, but, still there's an exchange there. I think whenever we're in a difficult place and others are giving to us, there is a power dynamic, and I'm not going to talk about that necessarily in this video, but there is something going on there. And what I do want to talk about in this video is something that I when I look back and I think about Black women, or specifically Black women, whenever we encounter something that is wicked or evil or wrong, we're often prone to shouting down the devil, right? I see this a lot in African women, in Nigerian women. It's like the power of the tongue. I'm going to speak. I'm going to call down, right? There's this almost like you feel when you're in the presence of it, you feel like someone's being anointed to vanish a great evil. It's not complacent in any way. It's like, I see the wrong and I'm going to call down spirit to come and correct it, right? With force. Right? I think about even the women in my family. I'm Jamaican. If you know Jamaican women, we don't hide talk, right? And so we're going to call down spirit to come work on this situation or this person, right? We're going to call down with great power, with great sense of expectation, right? But there's a different kind of experience that I started to have, especially as someone who grew up in a narcissistic family, who was scapegoated since a very young age, and not even having the words. I didn't realize I was a scapegoat until I was, I think, 28. Right? And it was only through watching these videos. Oh, what's his name? I will probably have his name here. I'll write his name here because his work is so amazing. I'm so grateful to him. I don't want to get his name wrong because I want you to go to the right person. So I'm just going to write his name here on the video. If you're watching this, you never will, but you've saved my life in many ways. Thank you for your work. But it's only in hearing him describe his own experience as a scapegoat and going through the healing process and the inner workings of it that I went, oh my God, I have those same wounds. I've had those same thoughts because I couldn't see what was happening to me. And so I'm telling you this to give you context. And the layers, right? The layers that it's, that I've worked through in my vantage point, but that I also see in women who struggle with codependency, who've gone through some type of unhealthy, toxic power dynamic where someone is, trying to have power over them. And of course, you might be like, that's every woman, right? The patriarchy, it is everywhere. Like, what woman escapes without going through that experience? Which makes this a pretty almost universal thing where, especially if you're a woman who has been trained to present as a certain way, right? To not be too loud, to not be too ghetto, to not be even to not be too Jamaican. Like, I'm Jamaican, and I, even upon coming here as a 6 7 year old girl, my aunt let me know you're gonna have to lose that accent, right? To not be anything other than docile, right? It's this choice that women have to make. It feels, are you going to be docile or are you going to be difficult? And can we break you to the point that we beat the difficulty out of you till you don't want to fight anymore, right? So do you have fight? Are you going to be a problem or are you going to be docile? And for most of my upbringing, in order to survive, I had to learn to be docile. Even though I knew I was stubborn, right? This is one of the things my family described me as. Even as a little girl, I was told, you're very stubborn, which I'm very grateful for. That meant I would have the fight that I needed to escape the mental, right? The recover from what I went through, right? That guaranteed my future, that stubbornness that I was born with. But I still, in many ways, was docile, just enough, spoke just, in the just right tone. And I notice it when I'm working, whenever I go and I'm meeting someone new or I'm handling customer service, my voice automatically goes into I have to put on this voice so that this person knows that I'm sweet and I'm innocent and so that I could be helped, right? Or even just listened to. I have to put on this voice. And I want to say that experience isn't specifically, it's not solely a white woman experience, right? It's not something that only white women do, right? That kind of docile, sweet voice, It's not only done by them, but I do think there's a difference in how we process danger, because white women do still have, or from what I've seen, tend to have this desire to still be accepted by the system. Meanwhile, we already know we're not accepted by the system. Like, I know I can put on a voice and appear innocent enough and sweet enough for you to, finally see me as a human being. I can play the game. I can play the game. But I know I'm not really one of you, right? And I'm fooling you. I'm not fooling me. But I think there is, this unfortunate thing that can happen specifically for white women where it's like, I'm fooling you, but I'm also fooling me. I'm also kind of deluding myself. And this is a thing that's been grinding my gears. It's been grinding my gears. Now that I'm on the other side of dispelling the things that I've taken on, that kind of subduing of who I am. Now that I'm on the other side and I'm ready and able and capable to shout down the devil. I don't mean that literally. I don't believe there's like a devil that's ruling the underworld. But I know my right to recognize when something is not good, something is harmful and walk away and not make excuses for it and not stick around to learn the inner workings, right? This is something that used to entrap me like crazy in dating, with family relationships. Like, oh my God, like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Now I'm like, I don't care about the why. I see what's happening and I'm out, right? I don't need to investigate. I don't need to get out the DSM-5. I don't need to know. I see what I need to see. Like, universe, just lift me out, please. Helicopter me the F out of here. I don't need the explanation, but I used to need it, and I understand why I needed it, right? Like mentally, I needed it in order to resolve the cognitive dissonance and blah blah blah. It was essential. But let's get into what I do. The thing I'm here to talk about. It's a big one, and I don't know why it feels so big right now. I don't know why to me it feels logical, but I think part of me doesn't want to call it out. I don't want to call it out. And I don't actually know why. Maybe that's something for me to explore later, or maybe we'll see how it feels by the end of this video. But it's something that I start to take on in these spaces, whether it's being led by a specific kind of worship leader in the church. I used to be a Christian. I'm not anymore. Deconstructed all that jazz. Or even in the spiritual space, right? White female leaders in the spiritual space. And it's this thing that I keep seeing, that now knowing how dangerous certain people are, it makes me go, whoa. It makes me like, ooh, I'm gonna turn this off right now. Like when I hear it, I'm like, Like I was literally, so the person I was listening to recently is Tara Brach, and this does not mean that I just don't listen to her. I still love her work. I still love her podcast, her ringing method. Wonderful. It's a tool that I use with myself, or a version of that I use with myself and that I use with clients. It's lovely. Speaking to the heart of an emotion and accepting, right? Practicing radical acceptance for what you're feeling. And so Tara Brach is really big on that, right? And so in one episode that I was listening to recently, and I don't have the title of it, maybe I'll put it here, but she recounts this story, and it's not her story. It's a story of an experiment that was done, or yes, right? I think this was done, I don't want to name the university just in case I'm wrong. You'll have to listen to the episode. I'll leave the name of it here. But she's talking about researchers that were doing an experiment on monkeys and trying to force male monkeys to mate with female monkeys. And these female monkeys, then rushing over to the female scientists, researchers, to help stop what is essentially a grape, right? And meanwhile, the male researchers are kind of egging each other on, like, look, it's, and making light of these female monkeys that are screaming in distress, do not want to mate with these male monkeys, are like, no, right? No, full stop, no. And recognizing the other women in the room, the other females in the room, these monkeys rush over to the female researchers and are like, here, please help, please help. And it's just so touching, to me at least, what Tara does with this story. And like I said, I love her work, but there are moments now when I'm listening where I go, no. And this is one of them, because what she states is, this is an opportunity, right? We can get very almost like phrasing this situation and like, it is wrong to judge the male researchers for how desensitized they've become to female suffering. how they're more, their main concern is how they're appearing to each other and being one of the bros instead of connecting to the suffering of the animals in front of them. And not just these animals, but women in general. And she phrases this in such a way as it's almost to placate you, to invite you to release any kind of judgment, right? You're now wrong. You're now placed in this position of being morally wrong, or maybe not nuanced enough as to see how this other person could be experiencing this moment, and from their vantage point this is all good, and so you should be loving towards them and open towards and blah blah. And I just found it incredibly, I had to just go, ooh, that's not okay. That's not okay. And this is not my first moment experiencing this, where you're having an honest disgust reaction to something that is clearly against your body's like full no, right? And these women are actually telling you, release that disgust reaction, because this male figure needs your empathy. Put your empathy in service of this male figure instead of those that are suffering. And it's not the first time I've encountered this. I encountered it when I was getting my coaching certification, and the head coach, I thought it was done incredibly well. I 100% still recommend the certification program. I love this woman down. I think she does a great job. Is she perfect? No. Would I do everything the way that she does it? No. Right? That's just how life is, right? You're never going to find a perfect teacher. But I will say, now that I look back, as I was going through the program, like, oh, that's not how I would do that, or that's not how I see things. Like, I could see the pitfalls and the holes, the holes, right? And that's just for me to, do study and learn and grow in my own ways, right? No one's going to deliver you the perfect experience ever. But one of the things that she said was how, and this was a moment of pride and joy in recognizing that even the worst of us also requires empathy to who will go out and serve them, right? Murderers, rapists, right? The worst of the worst of the worst. Don't they too deserve your love and your care and your service and your compassion? They too desire that. And if you can, this is how it's put, if you can go and, open up and be those who can go and be service to them, it's in a way, it's similar to having acceptance for the darkest parts of you. So put away your disgust, right? Maybe your disgust is actually an invitation to lean into love. No. So me now, as an abuse survivor who's actually, unfortunately, right? Women unalived, right? Family of women who've been abused, right? Cycles that I've had to break free from so that I didn't find myself, and I almost did. I got close, right? I'm grateful for that stubbornness that I was born with. I'm grateful for that sense of justice that I was born with, that whenever I finally do get to say my no, I hold tight to it. I know I'm not wired the way many women are. This is just who I am. And I'm not saying that to say other survivors are less than or blah, blah, blah. I just know that I don't want to share all my personal details, but I know I am wired in such a way that it's different. It's different, right? I experience things differently, and it's worked out in my favor in my life. Um, but having survived and escaped certain things and witnessed certain things, this kind of numbing of trying to soften your disgust reaction is wildly dangerous. And it makes me now, when I was younger and I was listening to women like this, because I so wanted to be good and I so wanted to do good. And now recognizing, where that came from, I'm like, okay, I see why I felt I needed to be that way. But I so wanted to be good and to be seen as good and loving. So whatever the most loving thing to do, I wanted to do that thing. I wanted to know that I was someone who could be compassionate to the worst of us. And of course I would be. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to go out of my way to like put someone through hell or make them suffer. There have been people who've harmed me in my life. I don't, try to set the record straight or, go around torching their name or anything like that. I am still that person that's like, you know what? I leave you to the universe. Karma will handle it. I don't need to, do any. I'm not going to go out of my way to make you suffer. Right. But I was definitely susceptible to this message, and maybe you are in a place where you are too, or you're a young listener, you're a young woman in your early 20s and you're watching this, right? And you want to be so good to others, right? And I think that this is, there's a good aspect of this. So just a little background on me. I'm an intimacy coach. Working in the taboo space is what I do. And a lot of that work is managing disgust, and it's managing your internalized disgust about yourself, disgust that you've, trying to parse out what your disgust means. Do you truly not like something? Because disgust usually, if it's just into, being projected at something you don't like, and it's so extreme, right? It usually is telling, right? It's usually like there's something there, because usually when you don't like something, you can be like, oh, that's not for me, right? It's never, not that it's never, but it usually isn't like, right, I now need to control, I don't want anyone else, like how could anyone else like that, or how dare you have that sexual preference, and how dare you like that, and like that's so wrong, right? Thou doest protest too much. You just don't have to do it. It's not something that has to be a part of your life. It is truly inconsequential to you. You don't like it, it's not for you, that's it. But usually if there's like a strong reaction like that, there's more questions that we could explore, like what is this really about? What is your disgust trying to tell you? Where does this disgust come from? Are there other emotions under there? And so that can be really beautiful in the intimacy coaching space. It can be such a delight to work through your disgust around certain things and then be like, oh, I think this was tied to my own kind of fear that I would have to do this, or that I would have to, I would suffer consequences if I like this. And now that I sit with it, I realize I can accept myself, right? I can heal this, I can do that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in that way. But what I noticed though is it's important to recognize that our body is speaking, communicating with us wisely through our emotions. It's one of the ways that we are going to know, right? before we form words about it, our primal brain is assessing other people in the environment to see if they're safe. It's assessing if this is someone you should connect with. It's assessing, right? Am I going to be safe with these people? And when you are told to soften your disgust, right, the way your body is communicating with you, which is likely in this specific situation, this is how your body is saying, no, 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 get away from that person. That's something that's off, right? Or, clock it. Clock it. Clock your coworkers. Clock what you're seeing. It's additional information. But when we put a moral stance on our physiological reaction, which is not in our control, the autonomic nervous system, one sec, your autonomic nervous system is below your conscious awareness, right? So it's just your body, fastest route to communicate with you. And if you're now putting a moral thing on that, like, it's bad to feel disgust. It's bad to feel ick. It's bad to want to pull away from your fellow human because we're all one, blah, blah, blah. You're going to put yourself in a dangerous situation because you're literally listening. You're literally bypassing your body's danger signals. It's telling you, no, no, no. Stay away from that. And you're going, oh, but I want to be a good person. Oh, but I want to be able to have compassion for the worst of us. And having had run-ins with some dangerous folks, that programming, that thought process, and I don't know what it is, because part of me is like, maybe these women haven't really seen some things in life. maybe these women just haven't lived certain things. And I do feel that way, with certain spiritual teachers where you're like, you just haven't you think you've seen the worst of us, but you really haven't had a run-in with the worst of us, right? Doing volunteering at a prison, which I've done. Volunteering at a prison, very different. A criminal, you visiting a criminal, and I'm not gonna, I'm not saying this to like say all criminals are one way and everybody who's in prison is there rightfully. No, right? No. But I'm just telling you, you seeing somebody one time at a volunteer event, right? Someone who's done something horrible and them saying, oh, I've turned my life around, and you, because this comes back to the fact that whenever someone is in need and you're they're giving and you are supporting, you're helping, you're caretaking, that's a power dynamic. That's a power dynamic. And that person you're helping, right, whether they're the victim or they're someone who's now in a fallen position, there's cards that can be played. Not, not saying everybody does it, but when you are meeting someone who's done harm, and this is just your one-off, or, you go and you meet once every week, and it's for a set amount of weeks. This person knows that they're here to get something from you. And so whatever service that you're doing as a spiritual deacon or whatever, right? They know that they can use you, right? And so when I hear spiritual teachers, specifically white, feminine spiritual teachers or card readers or whatever, it's usually not the card readers because they understand darkness, right? They shout down the devil. I will say the tarot girlies do have it on lock. Most of them. But if you are someone who is only, interacting within this defined power structure, within this defined structure, you're not the same as having gone through a truly life-threatening abusive situation. But when you now go and you tell young women, or just women in general, you tell them, oh, you can't judge harmful men, your disgust towards them, how would that reflect on, would you be disgusted, right, by the darkest parts of you? What you're doing is ignoring the power structure of the patriarchy, and you're putting women at risk, because that disgust reaction, it's not about your morals or your goodness. It is your body communicating and signaling to get away because something isn't safe. When we right, when we want to throw up, that's literally our gut being like, oh, you ate something bad, spit it out. It's going to upset your stomach. It's going to tear your booty up. But when we swallow it and say, no, I have to hold it in because I want to be good and I want this person to be okay, where does that leave you? Where does that leave you? You want that person to be okay. Where is it going to put you? Are you going to be okay after that encounter? And so it's very different. It's very different to pretend like we're Jesus and we are meeting the worst of us and the fallen and the poor, blah, 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 in this one-off exchange where you have a power dynamic, versus having been in a relationship, an intimate relationship, attached in a trauma bond with an abuser. And when you say that to the everyday person, especially certain people who, maybe you're like me, you've gone through certain kinds of abuse that have shaped your brain where you feel like you're trapped, right? You feel like you're mentally trapped and you can't exit certain dynamics, right? Until it gets to a certain point. What you're doing is you're leading women astray in a very dangerous way. And so, like I said, I don't think that it's only white women who do this, who tell you to stomach your disgust. And what I notice is it's often in the service of the patriarchy. It's often in the service of men, right? It's the examples are always a man who's done the worst crime. And that should tell us something. That should tell us something, right? That should tell us something. This isn't actually about meeting the darkest parts of you or practicing Tantra correctly. It's actually about upholding a system. And so I'm going to invite you, sisters, to Nahal talk. Shout the devil down. Shout that devilish man down. I promise you that is what your deeper self wants, because your deeper self, your soul self, wants you to be safe. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to be in bliss. It wants you to experience love. It actually is not asking for your sacrifice. It's got it handled. It's got that soul handled. It will lead that soul. This is my own personal belief. You don't have to believe it. Through many lifetimes of learning, of developing, right? It's going to purify that soul through karma, through many lifetimes of reincarnation. That's not your work. That is not your work. And it was never a request that you sacrifice yourself. Your empathy is not needed to transform that soul. Whoever's telling you that, hit mute. Take care of you first. I promise nothing bad's gonna happen if you do. Nothing bad's gonna happen. If you take care of you, nothing bad's gonna happen. If you focus on taking care of everybody else and not you, a lot of bad things gonna happen. All right, I'm just gonna put it simple for y'all. That's the takeaway. So that's something that's been grinding my gear. And actually, now that I've talked about it, I feel lighter. I don't know why I felt nervous. I felt nervous to talk about it. I don't even know why. I'm going to reflect on this later. I'm going to do some journaling or just do some voice audio to myself. But if you have noticed this as well, if this is something that maybe you were playing with, right, in your own spiritual practice, right, and feeling like we're one because we're one and we're all connected, I need to have love for everybody. Let me know what your thoughts are now. Do you feel the difference? Because there is a way to acknowledge the light within everyone. When you actually connect to your deeper self, there is no request that you fuse with everyone. There's this deep knowing and trust that everyone is taken care of, that it's actually not your job, right? If you really believe the universe is holding you, why can't you believe that the universe is holding them too? It's actually not your job to heal or fix, right? Or heal. Oh my goodness, I used to feel this way. I'm going to heal them with my love. Maybe I just need to be more loving to them, and they'll know that people love them and that they could change and they can accept themselves. Just as no one loving you could make you do that work, the same is true for them. All right, so stay safe out there. Practice spirituality with wisdom, right? Know the difference. And if you like these conversations, because I want to bring more talks like this, right? And kind of breaking down all these assumptions we have about what it means to awaken. I've done a couple videos recently. Well, I'm filming them all right now. They're videos with me in this outfit, where we talk about different ways to integrate the ego and the deeper self. So if you like these conversations and just giving yourself more options, if you felt like awakening must look like this, being good must look like this, hopefully these conversations will help. There's so much more going on than what we tend to see. So join me for those talks and comment below if this, something clicked for you, or you felt a deep sense of relief, like, oh my God, yeah, I felt like I was ignoring my body's wisdom, but I felt like I had to. All right, so leave me a comment. Let's talk some more about it, and maybe I'll make another video and we can keep talking about it. And if you are interested in connecting to your deeper self, I do have a guided meditation. There are many routes to connect with your deeper self. This is not the only route, but I'm sharing a specific technique that seems to work for just about, every client that I've done it with. And it's because I'm blending tools that I've used with my intimacy coaching clients with spiritual wisdom. And so we're working with the body to help you access a deeper self instead of trying to think your way there, which you can't. But we think that we can because the mind, the ego, just kind of thinks that it can do everything. But this work of connecting to your deeper self is accessing something beyond the mind. And I find that working with the body is the easiest route. So if you'd like to check out my personal technique, then go ahead and get the guided meditation. The link will be in the description. And if you would like to differentiate, right, with and learn what your nervous system is communicating instead of suppressing or placating, right, strong feelings like anger or disgust, then you'll want to work with me. So I've had a couple options for that right now. One is private coaching. That's always available. The links will be below. And also Soften and Replenish is my 7-week vagus nerve reset program, where you'll learn how to regulate and how to allow yourself to feel feelings instead of bypassing them spiritually. All right. I hope to see you in one of those spaces, in the comments, in a program. Reach out to me for a consultation. So hit subscribe, hit like if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, I'm Unique Bell. I realized I didn't introduce myself. Hi. Bye. So I want to add a final note before you go. I am not canceling either of these women, or really anyone who gives this advice. So I feel like I have to say this because this is the internet. But like I said in the video, I still take a lot of value from these women. I receive so much from their teachings and I still tune in. However, whenever I notice the teachings going in this direction, I will make a choice. Either I listen and just have my own thoughts, or I might actually tune out if it's something that I notice may be triggering my own embedded feelings of shame and guilt that was used to manipulate me, and therefore, prompting a lot of unnecessary doubt, self-doubt, or, just creating a mental mess for myself. And so that's just something I do whenever I tune into anyone, really, right? So you're never going to find someone who is teaching things exactly the way you want them to be taught, or see things exactly the way that you see them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that these people have malicious intent. I don't think that either of these women do. I actually think that they're each looking through their own lens. And this is what we're all doing, right? We've got this big elephant in front of us, and we've got different versions of sunglasses on. Some of us have purple shades, some of us have green shades, some of us have brown shades. And we're reporting, from the field, and we're saying, hey, this is what I'm noticing through my lens. This is what I see here. And we are just reporting on what we're seeing and sensing and feeling and picking up on. And so each of these women are doing exactly that. And I hope that as you're listening to my own teachings, you're watching my own videos, that you're learning to develop this habit of thinking critically about what you're hearing, and also spotting everyone's blind spots, right? Because we all have different vantage points, and you're going to bring something different and unique and special to the conversation and see things from an angle that others don't. That doesn't mean that you're completely correct, or any given person has the right vantage point and the right way of looking at things. It just means that you have to combine all perspectives to get a fuller picture. And even then, we're still all just kind of grasping at something that's almost too big to chew. So I just wanted to make this clear. And I also want to let you know, you don't need to subject yourself to, for me, this is more so an exercise in, holding both my perspective and others. But if you're in a place where you're still recovering, like I said, there are times where this is triggering, things that I'm recovering from. And so I take a step back from the conversation. It's okay to take a step back from a specific teacher or whatever, researcher, whatever it is. If you're like, what, in this season of my life, I don't want this to get me off track on my own healing and self-development journey. That's completely fine. And you can tune back in or choose not to. And that doesn't make you less than. It doesn't make you right or wrong. And it doesn't, mean that the other person needs to stop teaching what they're teaching or anything like that. So I just felt like I needed to add that invitation and add that clarification, because I know that sometimes these conversations can be taken to an nth degree on the internet. And I just want to make it clear, I still love both these women down. And I also, whenever, this is just something I practice whenever I'm listening to anyone, really, or reading any book. I'm looking for people's natural human blind spots, and also noticing how it's affecting me, what they're saying is affecting me. And just weighing it against knowledge, my own personal experience. You just don't ever want to another thing to keep in mind is, especially if you're someone who has, you've had a history of feeling like you need it to be perfect, or maybe you had people who are very hard on you, whether it's in your work, you're never, meeting the standard. It's important to notice whenever you're bringing in this feeling of almost like I have to, you have to get the marks, almost like, this is high school and whatever this person says goes. We're not in high school anymore. But that younger part of you might still feel that way. Like, I have to listen to the teacher, or I have to listen to the adult, the person who knows more. And I can't question or even trust my perception. So you just want to be mindful of that. This is just an invitation. This video really is just an invitation for you to notice whenever you reach a point. For example, with certain teachers, there are things that I say, okay, I'm with you up until a point, right? I'm with you up until this point, and then I'm out. And that's okay, right? I'm here for it until we get to this section, and then I'm like, I don't believe that. And so it's okay to recognize where these natural limits are within you. Like, I agree with this, but there's something here where it's like, this part doesn't make sense for me. There's like a missing vantage point, and just listen to those cues. That's all I want to really say. This appendix is longer than I intended it to be, but hopefully this video and all of this, has given you a lot of value and some food for thought as you are navigating research, you're reading literature, you're reading books, or reading other people's blog posts, you're watching videos, or listening to different teachers, spiritual teachers, teachers of all kinds. Always trust, give yourself permission to think critically and tune into how it's affecting you. Okay, all right, I'll see you in the next video.